Welcome back to the Old Photo Vault channel. Take a moment to look at this photograph. Don't search for anything strange yet. Just let the scene settle. The street is busy, but calm. Carriages move along familiar paths. People walk as if the day ahead is ordinary and predictable. This is London at a time when routine felt safe, when leaving home in the morning came with the quiet belief that you would return by night. Someone in this image believed that. Someone locked a door without hesitation. Someone had plans they never finished. Now look again at the figures standing still. They aren't blurred by movement. They don't appear to be going anywhere. In early photography, people were asked to hold their position. Time slowed. And sometimes, that pause revealed more than expected. The city continues forward. And whatever was left behind simply remains. This photograph shows London at one of its busiest moments. Faces pass quickly. No one seems to stop for long. In a city like this, it was easy to become invisible. Easy to blend into the crowd. Easy to disappear without being noticed. Some faces in this image feel unfinished. Not blurred by motion, but softened in a way that feels unfamiliar. It's as if the camera captured people who were already beginning to fade. London has always moved quickly. Faster than grief. Faster than memory. When someone fell behind, the city rarely waited. No one in this photograph looks alarmed. No one reacts. Life continues exactly as it should. And the absence goes unacknowledged. Sometimes, that is how a city keeps its dead. By never noticing the moment they stopped walking alongside everyone else. This street was once filled with sound, carriages, voices, the constant movement of people going somewhere. Everything in this photograph makes sense at first. The buildings, the traffic, the crowd. But at ground level, some figures feel strangely weightless, less solid than the rest. No one looks at them. No one steps aside. It feels as if their presence no longer requires acknowledgement. In cities like London, people lived and died within the same few streets. Work, sleep, illness, and death all happened close together. When death arrived quietly, without witnesses, there was often no clear moment of departure. The city did not stop. The street did not change. And sometimes, the person simply stayed where they were while everything else moved on. This is a shopping street filled with people. Conversation, movement, the closeness of everyday life. At first glance, nothing feels out of place. Everyone appears present. But some figures seem disconnected from the moment. They don't speak. They don't engage. They stand among the living without truly being part of them. London was full of people like this. Workers, tenants, neighbors. People whose lives were noticed only when they were gone. No one in this image reacts. No one senses anything missing. The crowd flows around them naturally, as if this quiet separation has already been accepted. Perhaps the most unsettling thing is how easily the city absorbs absence without ever slowing down. This photograph looks out toward the heart of London. Solid buildings, a city built to last. Everything appears permanent, certain, and yet the atmosphere feels unusually still, as if the moment is holding its breath. Some figures seem to be waiting, not for transportation, not for company, waiting for something unspoken. London has always been good at moving forward, at continuing without looking back. When someone vanished quietly, there was rarely an announcement, no clear ending. Life continued, the city endured, and whatever did not leave with the rest remained in place, unnoticed, uninvited, but never entirely gone. These images were taken before death became familiar, before London learned how to lose people without stopping. What comes next is when the city began to keep them. This photograph was taken in a London cemetery. Rows of stones stretch quietly into the distance. Places like this were meant to separate the living from the dead, to mark an ending, to give people somewhere to leave their grief. But London buried its dead faster than it could remember them. Names faded, records were lost, graves were reused. Some people were laid to rest without ceremony, others without anyone to notice. If you look closely at this image, the space between the graves feels unsettled, as if something still moves through it, not with purpose, not with urgency, just wandering. When a city grows used to death, it sometimes forgets to close the door behind it, and what was meant to stay underground learns how to linger above it instead. This narrow street once held more people than it should have. Families lived close together. Walls listened to everything. Illness moved easily here. So did hunger. So did exhaustion. The man and the child stand at the doorway, facing the camera without expression. But behind them, other shapes seem to remain inside the building, half seen, unwilling to step forward. In places like this, people died quietly, often indoors, often unnoticed. When death happened behind closed doors, there was no clear moment when someone was gone. The house stayed full, the street stayed crowded, and whatever didn't leave with the body simply stayed where it had always been. The street in this photograph feels empty. Shops are closed. Windows reflect nothing but silence. This wasn't uncommon after disease passed through London. Entire blocks fell quiet overnight, not because people moved away, but because they never came back. If you look carefully at the window, it feels as though something is standing just inside. Not clearly formed, not reflected, waiting. Business is closed, but routines remained. Someone may have stood behind that counter every morning, opened the door at the same hour, expected customers who never returned. When habits outlive the people who created them, they don't disappear right away. They linger, unsure of what comes next. This photograph captures a quiet corner of a cemetery. Nothing dramatic, nothing violent, and yet something feels present. Near the grave, a faint shape appears. Indistinct, almost hesitant. Doesn't feel threatening, it feels uncertain. Some people visited graves so often that leaving became harder than staying. Others never understood that they were meant to leave at all. In a city like London, death did not always feel final. It felt like an interruption, and interruptions invite waiting. If no one tells you that it's time to go, you may simply remain where you were last remembered. This photograph shows London after destruction. Buildings damaged, streets altered. War changed the shape of the city, but not its memory. The statue in this image appears motionless, almost attentive, as if listening. Many people lost their homes here. Some lost their families. Others lost their place in the world entirely. When the streets disappeared, not everyone knew where to go. London rebuilt itself quickly. It always does. But those who belonged to the streets that vanished had nowhere to return. And so, they stayed. Not in buildings, but in the spaces between what once was and what replaced it. From cemeteries, to narrow rooms, to streets that no longer exist. London did not just lose people. It forgot to tell some of them that they were gone. This room appears empty at first glance. No movement, no people. But rooms like this once held entire lives. Someone slept here night after night. Someone sat in the same chair every evening. Someone believed this space belonged to them. In London, many people died indoors, quietly, without witnesses. When death happens without an audience, there is no clear signal that life has ended. The room remains familiar. The walls do not change. The silence feels temporary. If you were here yesterday and nothing looks different today, how would you know you are no longer meant to stay? Some spaces do not release people easily. They hold onto routine, onto memory, and when no one comes to clear the room, whatever remains may never realize it is alone. The man in this photograph stands alone. His posture is calm, his hands prepared for work. He looks as though he has been waiting for some time. No one nearby acknowledges him. No one seems aware of his presence. In London, street vendors relied on routine. The same corner, the same hours, the same customers. When illness or exhaustion ended a life suddenly, routine did not end with it. The body left, the habit remained. If you returned to the same place every day, expecting work to continue as it always had, would you notice when the world stopped responding? Some people don't linger because they are lost. They linger because nothing ever told them to stop. This photograph shows men lying in coffins. Their expressions are peaceful, almost unchanged. Death in London often arrived quickly, too quickly for understanding. Many people passed away before fear could form, before realization had time to settle. These men look as though they are resting, as though they might wake if spoken to. When death feels like sleep, waking feels possible. In overcrowded cities, the dead were handled efficiently, moved, counted, buried. There was little time for recognition, little time for farewell. Without that final moment of understanding, some people may never have known that the day they fell asleep was meant to be their last. This room was once used to study death, to measure it, to understand it. Tables, instruments, records, everything arranged carefully. But no measurement ever answered the same question. What happens after the body stops? Science could document the end of life, but not the end of presence. In places like this, death was reduced to process, something to be examined, not experienced. When death becomes routine, it loses clarity. It stops feeling final. And if no one explains the transition, no one marks the boundary, some people may never realize that they have crossed it. At first, this looks like an ordinary family photograph. Everyone appears present. Everyone faces the camera, but one figure feels different. Their expression does not match the others. Their gaze does not look forward. It looks inward or backward. Family photographs were meant to preserve moments, to freeze people together in time. Sometimes they captured more than intended. This person may have already been gone, or they may have sensed what was coming. Either way, they feel separate from the rest. Even among loved ones, some people stand closer to the past than to the future. In London, not everyone who dies disappears. Some remain in rooms they recognize. Some wait where routine once made sense. And some stay close to the living, because leaving was never explained. This man is sitting in his own bedroom. The bed is made. The furniture is familiar. Nothing in the room suggests urgency. Nothing suggests an ending. In London, many people died alone in rooms like this. No witnesses, no final words. When death happens quietly, the room does not change. The light remains the same. The walls remember nothing. If you were here yesterday and everything still looks familiar today, what would tell you that you should leave? Some people never notice the moment they disappear. They remain seated in the last place that felt like home, not waiting, not afraid, simply unaware that the city has already moved on without them. This photograph was meant to capture a family moment, nothing more. But when it was developed, someone appeared who should not have been there. The figure is unclear. No face, no defined shape, just a presence near the piano. Music often filled homes like this. It marked evenings. It softened silence. Sometimes, it was the last familiar sound a person heard before everything stopped. If something ties you to the world strongly enough, it doesn't let go immediately. Perhaps this image isn't showing someone returning. Perhaps it shows someone finishing what they started. One last note, lingering longer than intended. Two men sit clearly in the foreground of this photograph. Relaxed, comfortable. Behind them, a third figure appears. He doesn't draw attention. He doesn't interrupt. His hand rests lightly on a shoulder, as if the gesture has always been there. This doesn't feel threatening. It feels familiar. In London, people often worked and lived closely together. Friends became routine. Presence became expected. When one person was lost, the habit of their company remained. Sometimes, what stays behind isn't the person themselves, but the feeling that they were never meant to leave. This horse stands alone, waiting. No driver, no command. In old London, people often died in the middle of work. The body fell. The task stopped. But animals did not understand death. They understood routine. This horse knows where it was meant to be. It knows what usually happens next, and so it waits. Loyalty does not question absence. It expects return. Sometimes, the clearest sign that someone is gone is not found in people, but in the things that continue waiting for them long after they no longer can. In this photograph, it's difficult to tell who belongs to which moment. Faces overlap. Time collapses. Everyone seems present. Yet no one feels fully anchored. This room once held laughter, conversation, ordinary life. When people were photographed together, they were meant to be remembered as one moment. But memory doesn't follow rules. Some people move forward. Others remain where they felt most alive. Perhaps no one in this image wants to leave. Or perhaps no one ever told them that the moment had already passed. When time folds in on itself, the city remembers even when people do not. London is not haunted. London simply remembers too much. It remembers those who died quietly, those who were never noticed leaving, those whose absence blended too easily into routine. These photographs do not prove that spirits exist. They only show us how easily people can disappear without the world stopping. And if one image tonight made you pause a little longer than the rest, perhaps it wasn't fear. Perhaps it was recognition. Which image stayed with you the longest? Tell me in the comments. Sometimes, the city is waiting for someone to notice.